Morning. It is June 18th, 2025, although it might be afternoon and evening where you are. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. I have a lot of news for you this morning that I wanted to get out to talk to you about. We're going to start with Colonel Wilkerson's comments on what he thinks will be the demise of the U.S., what he thinks will happen to the U.S. if they get involved in war with Iran, and then we'll go from there.
Not now, Nima. If we invaded another country, we'd last about 2 weeks. We invade Iran, we might last 2 weeks. And then we're out, we're done, we're kaput. And guess what? When we pull a draft, have you seen any of those films of Ukraine, especially the latest one, where they're whacking them over the head with a pole and grabbing them out of restaurants and bars and their own homes and everything and throwing them in the vans? We won't do that in this country because the kids will go to Mexico and Canada. They will not be drafted. They will not be drafted. So let's go into this war. Yep, we will be roundly and soundly defeated. And this is not good. It's not good. I mean, okay, the power's moving to the east. I understand that. But it doesn't have to be a situation where, okay, in order to affect this change, which is inexorable anyway, we're going to have this big holocaust of a war and maybe even use nuclear weapons. Because then, yeah, you stop the power shift maybe, but you also stop humanity. And that's what we're aiming at. That's what it looks like at the end of this might be the ultimate denouement, that we wind up using nuclear weapons. And I say again, I know positively that this country will use a nuclear weapon before it will accede to China and Russia being world hegemons. It doesn't have to be that way. We can all share in the spoils, as it were.
Okay, thanks to Dima's YouTube channel, Dialogue Works. What Colonel Wilkerson says there. It's very important and so true. It doesn't look good for us to get involved in this, as we know. Let's see. Where is that? Okay, now I'm going to go to Moscow releases a statement on June 17th calling Israeli action against Iran illegal. The Putin and the Kremlin have concerns about the Israelis trying to attack and blow up the Tehran nuclear facilities, the dangers of it. So I'm going to show just a little bit of this from Hindustan Times. Ongoing intensive attacks by the Israeli side on peaceful nuclear facilities in Iran are illegal from the point of view of international law, create unacceptable threats to international security, and push the world toward a nuclear catastrophe. The Israeli leadership must come to its senses and immediately stop raids on nuclear installations. The harsh reaction to Israel's attack on Iran from most of the international community illustrates that the Jewish state is only supported by countries acting as its accomplices. Okay. So, yeah. Russia's not happy what's going on, and neither is China. I'm going to share this really quick information here. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so this was back on May 27th, trying to catch up on what's going on in the waters here. We have Russia launches large-scale naval war drills in Baltic Sea. So they had at least, these are naval exercises. They had at least 20 warships and 3,000 troops along with the air support. As part of the exercise, the crews of the fleet's ships will solve anti-submarine tasks in combat training areas, practice defense against unmanned boats, and conduct practical artillery fire at sea and air targets. Okay, now this appears to be a mirroring response to provocative NATO drills currently happening in Finland near the Russian border. So the drills further include frigates, corvettes, small missile and anti-submarine ships, as well as minesweepers. There's also air coverage with up to 25 aircraft and helicopters taking place. Currently, the ships have left their bases and deployed to designated areas of the Baltic Sea to perform combat training missions. The Baltic Sea has remained a regional maritime flashpoint due to the still raging war in Ukraine. And the past year has seen Baltic Sea countries affected by the destruction of undersea telecom cables, which were promptly blamed on Russia, but in some instances have been declared accidents. Also, a Chinese vessel, in at least one case, was also accused. Tensions in the Baltic Sea also grew hotter after Scandinavian countries, Finland and Sweden, abandoned their historic neutrality and became the newest NATO members. So there's the potential for more undersea cable cutting incidents. There's heightened concerns over that, of potential sabotage by agents of China or Russia, raising alarms about hybrid warfare tactics targeting Western telecommunication infrastructure worldwide. NATO has also held drills in both regional waters and along Russia's border with Scandinavia of late. Finland only entered the North Atlantic Alliance in April 2023. Significantly, the country shares 830-mile border with Russia, and Moscow has previously warned that this could result in the greater militarization of the Baltic region. So, President Putin in 2023 had brushed off Finland and Sweden entering NATO as but a meaningless move, which will in the end only harm their own national interests. Both had previously economically benefited from their positive relations with Russia, but now border closures and worsening relations have been the trend. It goes without saying that tit-for-tat mirroring drills in these Baltic and Northern European regions do little to foster Ukraine peace talks, since, of course, is when that was still going on. It's not happening right now. Let's see. There's also things going on in the Black Sea. The tensions there are not good. Doesn't look like I have that up. Or I don't think. Anyway, so we have the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea, active naval exercise, things going on there. And that's going to be part of the World War III arena, of course. If we remember correctly, there's going to be some over the Black Sea and Ukraine fights between NATO and U.S. planes and Russia, but Russia's going to beat them back and win on that. And so we know those are going on, and that the Scandinavian countries are going to be hurt by all this. It's too bad that they got involved. They should have stayed out, as Elder Father Elpadios said. If you stay neutral, you're in better shape during this war. Okay, so I'm going to go to... Okay, so Iran's supreme leader fires back at Trump. So he rejected this. He says... The U.S. would suffer irreparable damage if it intervenes militarily against Iran, the leader said. Okay, so let me tell you what he says. I'm just going to give you the quotes here. After, of course, the threats by President Trump on his Truth Social, we are not going to take him out, at least not for now. You must surrender. So Israel attacks Iran, and then Trump says, surrender. Again, these are mafia tactics. They are not what should be said by a world leader, especially one that's supposedly a superpower. And, of course, he said complete and total control of the skies over Iran. He said that too. Now, this is what Khomeini stated after that. Those with wisdom who know Iran and its history never speak to this nation in the language of threats. Iran is not a nation that will surrender. Any kind of military entry by the U.S. will undoubtedly be accompanied by damage that cannot be compensated. And he also described Trump's ultimatum for Iran's unconditional surrender as unacceptable and stressed that the Islamic Republic will not accept an imposed peace. The U.S. president threatens us. With his absurd rhetoric, he demands that the Iranian people surrender to him. They should make threats against those who are afraid of being threatened. The Iranian nation isn't frightened by such threats. Of course, what else are they going to say? Let's be honest. I don't think they are afraid, but let's be honest, they're not going to come out weak. They've never been one to say things that are weak. That's just how most Middle Eastern countries are, and Iran is no exception. But that's what he says. Now, at the same time as this is going on, I'm hearing nothing supposedly has happened of Israeli trying to target the bunker where the supreme leader is. However, this interesting story from Al Jazeera came up. It said about an hour ago, Iranian government planes land in Oman. So they say that the Al Jazeera shows 2 planes registered with Iran's government have landed in Oman's capital. A 3rd plane registered with Iran's privately owned Mirage Airlines also landed in Muscat. So that's from their flight tracking. Iran's government has not released details of any official trip to Oman, which served as a mediator in U.S.-Iran nuclear negotiations. So I don't know what's going on there. I have this idea that could be my first thought is they're going there to escape the bombing of Tehran that's been going on, or it may get worse. But then that last sentence might have meant that they might try to go back into talks. I don't know about that. I really don't know about that. Okay, so let me go back in here. And everybody on X has been going on about, the U.S. is going to get involved in Israel. And Trump says, nobody knows his plan on Iran. He says,
striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Where's your mindset on that?
You can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country.
Do you think it's too late to now?
Really, nothing's too late.
Okay. Obviously, there's a problem with that. His idea of why don't you negotiate with me, his negotiation was unacceptable. It was an ultimatum the whole time. It was not a deal that you could have. It was not, they didn't put anything on the table. The Americans didn't put anything on the table that was fair, that could be a compromise and work with Iranians, as I've said before. So this whole thing is a lie. He's not telling the truth on this, of course. Now, after that, and by the way, he says he doesn't know, you don't know what I'm going to do. Let's not forget, he says, you don't know what I'm going to do. I may or I may not do that. The last time he said, I'm not sure, and I may or may not, it happens. It turns into, yeah, we are. Okay. So, this is the last one that I found quite amazing. Is this story here out of the cradle? Our worst ally. So, top Pentagon official has been sacked from criticizing U.S. support to Israel. That's of today. This is very... Okay, so he says the military official said U.S. support for Israel has only achieved the enmity of millions of people and stressed Washington has not been an honest broker. Well, he is speaking truth. U.S. Colonel Nathan McCormick, the head of the Levant and Egypt branch at the Joint Chiefs of Staff's J5 Planning Directorate, was removed from his position this week after he criticized Washington's unwavering support for Israel on social media. Our worst ally. We get literally nothing out of the partnership other than the enmity of millions of people in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, he said. In one of several posts discovered by the Jewish News Syndicate on a semi-anonymous X account allegedly linked to him. Of course. There we go. They always are spying out. There's a bunch of spies. Okay, so then the U.S. has not been an honest broker. We have overwhelmingly enabled Israel's bad behavior. Boy, he is speaking truth. This is why he is fired. In another post, the senior military official calls Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and his coalition government Judeo-supremacist cronies. Woo! Wow! This is amazing to hear this. This is an amazing article, amazing news story, who are determined to prolong the conflict for their own goals, either to remain in power or to annex the land. Yes, that's right. Israel's actions over decades have prompted the accusations of ethnic cleansing and genocide. He also charged Western states of going to great lengths to avoid criticism of Israel, much out of Holocaust guilt. True. And since June 2024, referred to Israel as a death cult. Wow. Amazing rhetoric from this colonel. I think he was a colonel, yeah. Although, he's in the region, he sees what's going on. So, in response to the JNS report, the snitches, an unnamed Pentagon official confirmed McCormick will no longer be on the joint staff while the matter is being investigated, adding that the Defense Department is assigning an investigating officer to examine the content and its implications. And then the individual is being returned to his service while the matter is being investigated. Now, the JNS revelations coincided with a new poll conducted by YouGov and The Economist, which shows that 60% of U.S. adults oppose Washington's involvement in Israel's war against Iran. Of course. Now, among those who voted for Trump in the 2024 election, 53% say the U.S. should stay out of the war. He better listen to his electorate. 19% support involvement. I'm surprised at this, and 28% remain unsure. That is a very small amount. I am amazed to see that, but quite proud to see that not everybody has fallen for this. Or they shouldn't have after the 2 years of massacres in Gaza. Amazing story, I tell you. This guy, he just spoke truth right there. Truth to power right there. Boom. So, of course, that's why he's not there. Unfortunately, sane voices aren't allowed in there. same voices that are in the military that actually see what's going on, that what can happen and where they are and if they get involved. Typical. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you this morning or afternoon. And I will be back maybe later because, there's always stories to share. Thanks so much for watching. Please follow my channel on Rumble. Subscribe to my channel on my YouTube channel. Like my videos if you like them. Make comments if you have any comments. I appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. And